You shouldn't be beating yourself into the ground because you're not everything you could be, because no one is. And if you beat yourself into the ground, then you can't get up and improve. How much of my self-criticism is ill-advised? Fair enough. And you want to deal with yourself with a certain amount of care. Fix your weaknesses. If you're ashamed of being ignorant, you're showing up at a party because, you claim to knowledge that you don't have and someone exposes you. Well, you can be angry at them, and you probably will, but they've actually done you a favor. What should I do with my life? That's a real complicated question. Oh, here's an inadequacy. Excellent. You have a goal now. Rectify it. Carl Rogers, the psychotherapist, pointed out that for therapy to be successful, the person has to want to change. So they have to have recognized that they have a problem. I know it's still technically difficult. It requires discipline and all of that. There's no magic solution, but if you're plagued by feelings of inferiority, you should rectify the most obvious inferiorities. You have to rectify an inadequacy when it's clearly an impediment to your goal. You can protect yourself by picking a different goal that's more difficult. That's a good mental hygiene practice, because sometimes you should switch goals rather than rectifying inadequacies. If you want to know something about yourself, sit on your bed one night and say to yourself, my life is not everything I want it to be, and perhaps it's not everything that I need it to be. The suffering that's attendant upon that is make me nihilistic, cynical, bitter, resentful, homicidal, genocidal, unable to have a good relationship, prone to punish people for their virtues because of my jealousy. You ask yourself, you sit on the bed and say, okay, man, I'm ready to learn something. Like what's one thing I'm doing wrong that I know I'm doing wrong, that I could fix, that I would fix? And it's often something that will point you to small things.
What would be a few key steps to get started to turn their life around, or to find the motivation for something greater than where they're at?
You can find it in shame. You can find it in guilt. You can find it in conscience. You can find it in anger. You can find it in interest. Some of it's practical knowledge too. It's like you can get a really long way with very small changes, incremental changes, micro habit changes. So aim low. You want a goal that you can do, but that requires some improvement on your part, because you want to attain the goal. That's satisfying. But then you want to make yourself into the thing that can attain goals. So you're pursuing a goal, but you're also pursuing the goal of transforming yourself at the same time. You're doing both of those at the same time. If you're resentful, you're either being oppressed and not standing up for yourself, or you're whiny and should grow up. And both of those things are really useful to realize. Okay, I'm resentful. Okay, am I immature? Are people picking on me, or I am immature? If people are picking on me, do I have something to say or something to do? I should do it. You can foster it and let it devour you and take you places that no one with a clear mind would ever want to go.
How do we start to heal the memories of the past, the traumas of the past, so that they don't keep hurting us in the present?
People are generally traumatized because something actually horrible happened. And dwelling on it in the moment just makes it worse. It's a universal human experience to one degree or another. When you're the only person that something has happened to, that's really not good, right? Because it alienates you even from yourself. You have no idea what to do with that. And so that's sometimes why people find it such a relief to have their illness diagnosed. Just knowing that you're not the only person like that can be very helpful. What your brain wants from you in relationship to a traumatic memory is indication that you're no longer vulnerable to the same problem. Change your interpretation or your behavior or the situation or whatever you can change so that it isn't going to happen in the future. And if you do that thoroughly, you'll generally let yourself rest. Well, that's the purpose of memory in general. You make sense of your past behavior so that the good things that happen to you can be duplicated and the bad things can be avoided. It's not to make an objective record of the world.
How do you advise people that are dealing with imposter syndrome?
Oh, everyone deals with that. Every time you make a status shift as you move upwards, of course you have imposter syndrome, because when you first make a transition into a new role, you are an imposter. What did Nietzsche say? Every great man is an actor of his own ideal. And that feeds into the imposter syndrome in some sense. If you want to move to the next stage, at some point you have to act like you're already there when you're just barely started. And of course you're going to feel like you're an imposter if you have any sense, because you're just barely there. You just made the transition. That's okay. That's not a problem. First of all, you have to understand that everyone with any sense who isn't narcissistic feels that. Don't be a phony. That's the first thing. If you're dealing with competent people and you admit your ignorance, the competent people never judge you harshly for that, as long as you've been paying attention. You can be an ignorant newbie, and you can even ask the questions that are necessary to ask in that position and sort of reveal your inadequacy. And as long as you're dealing with competent people and you've been paying attention, they're just going to answer your questions. The only treatment we really know for that is to expose yourself to things that you're afraid of voluntarily and to become braver as a consequence of doing that. But some people have to live with that more than other people.
How should people become more dangerous?
Becoming more articulate is definitely, I would say, that's the primary array of weapons. There's nothing that makes you more formidable than verbal competence, than being able to articulate, be able to think, to marshal your arguments, right? It's a battlefield metaphor. Get everything in order. You want to take your rightful place in the kingdom? It's like, get your tongue straight, man. Get it under control in the highest possible sense.
You almost feel competent by being around them. Mm-hmm.
But you certainly feel competent by appreciating it.
Yep.
Right? Because it speaks to the part of you that is capable of appreciating such things. You think, wow, that's really something. That's an amazing display.
The victim mindset, where you believe that you have no control over the outcomes in your life. I wonder whether there's an opposite, where you believe that you have an infinite amount of control over them and you lose faith in your innate ability to just carry you through. I wonder whether the opposite of a victim mentality, where you take responsibility for the things that occur in life, I wonder whether you can overshoot that.
You can, for sure. Yeah, definitely. You do have an indefinite responsibility, and you do have an indefinite capacity to bear that responsibility, but that doesn't mean it can't be crushing. And then I would say the antidote to that is that you're not in this alone. It's important that you do everything you can, but there's enough for everyone to do. So you delegate, and you help build people around you so that they're all working in the same direction. It's an effort multiplier. There's also a narcissism that can come along with that, which is, well, it's all up to me. And even if you're working in a very competent manner, it can seem that way, but there's plenty of work to go around, and there's plenty of credit where credit is due.
You said truth in the service of love. Mm-hmm. What do you mean by that?
When I was a clinician, I thought of that as the good in me serving the best in my clients. And I think the desire for that to happen, that's love. You want the broken people to rise up out of their brokenness rather than despise them for it. And then you orient yourself towards. So what you're doing by engaging in truthful dialogue is letting the wind blow where it's going to blow. And you do that if you've decided at some fundamental level, even if you don't know you've decided that the truth will set you free. The truth is a process. It's often a dialogical process. So the truth is the thing that emerges in the course of the search for the truth. It's something like that. You let go and the truth takes you away, and you think that it's going to go where it should go. You commit yourself to that idea, and then that's your adventure. That's one of the things that's so cool about that. How could it be a true adventure if it wasn't true? And then why is an adventure if it's true? Because you're not crafting the outcome.
so high I'm hypnotized. What's up is down, what's left is right. Chasing stars and holding you. I can't see the end, but we'll see it through. Times don't fly too high. Be sure to keep the ground in sight. Fly forever if you keep it tight. Love the world but keep the sky on your mind.